Solid. All right. Well, hello everyone. Thank you for joining today. And joining us at the Akuho for the Akuho I webinar series, a collaborative effort today with our affinity networks designed to foster connection and shared learning across the field of campus housing and residence life. So this free webinar is a series, is a part of Akuho I's ongoing commitment to spotlight timely topics, elevate voices from across our profession. My name is Brendan Navarro. I currently serve as a resident director at Syracuse University, and I am serving as a representative for the Latin Network. For those who may be new to Kauai, we are the Association of College and University Housing Officers International, dedicated to advancing campus housing and residence life globally. We're excited to welcome you today to today's session, Inclusion and Talent Development in University Housing. Before we begin, a couple notes. Today's session is being recorded and will be available on the Akuhoai YouTube channel following the webinar. Following the presentation, there will be an opportunity to ask Dave and David questions, our presenters today. If you have any questions that you would like answered at the end, please utilize the chat or the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. We also encourage you to utilize the chat to engage with the information, your colleagues throughout the presentation today. And remember that your contributions are valued. And with that, I would love to, and I'm excited to engage and introduce our speakers today. Dave Arnold and David Martinez. Dave Arnold currently serves as the Assistant Director of Inclusion and Talent Development for the University Housing at the University of Illinois. He spent more than 13 years working in housing and residence life, having served in traditional residence life roles before stepping into his current position. Dave is passionate about helping teams grow, lead with confidence, and create workplaces where everyone feels seen, valued, and empowered. He's also actively involved in Glakuho leadership, supporting and developing housing professionals across the region. Outside of work, Dave enjoys music, golfing, traveling, and spending time with his wife, daughter, and their English bulldog, Roxy. David Martinez has been at the University of Illinois since 2018, where he was a resident advisor and a multicultural advocate in university housing. He graduated with his Bachelor's of Social Work degree in 2022, his Master's of Social Work in 2023. Following an internship with ITD, David now serves as ITD's Inclusion and Talent Development Specialist, which is his first ever full-time job. This fall, David started his second master's program in human resources and industrial relations as a part-time student. And outside of work, David enjoys connecting with others through their stories, shared love for films, shows, music, and food. With that, introductions done. Please go forward, take it away.
Well, thank you, Brendan, and welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us. We're excited to share with you today about the work that we do in inclusion and talent development in university housing. We are hosted at the University of Illinois in Urbana-Champaign. And as Brendan already said, my name is Dave Arnold, not to be confused with David. So that's the clear delineation for us, Dave and David. So Dave Arnold, my pronouns are he, him, his. And as Brendan said, I serve as the Assistant Director for Inclusion and Talent Development. I'm excited for David to introduce himself.
Hi, everybody. David Martinez, he and his are my pronouns. I'm very excited to be here with you all today and share a little bit about what we do in ITD. As Brendan, thank you for the introduction, shared. I was an RA. I was a multicultural advocate, or MA as we call it over here. I'm no stranger to res life. That's where, I got into this work. And I now work with ITD. This is my first full-time position, and I have David, my supervisor, and then we have two other folks that are actually in our staff that Dave will share.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to share a little bit about the makeup of our unit, how we came to be, and some context around housing at Illinois. But inclusion and talent development, I wanted to give, or as ITD as we call it, I wanted to give you an understanding there. As a comprehensive body of work focused on influencing a positive staff experience for us across university housing through training and development, professional coaching, consulting, and strategic culture and climate initiatives. ITD, as we refer to ourselves, is about fostering staff appreciation, engagement, and recognition, ensuring that every team member feels valued and equipped to contribute meaningful to our mission. Essentially, we blend the work of diversity, equity, and inclusion with learning, training, and talent development. So before we get started, I wanted to emphasize what's already been stated, but we want to acknowledge that this is a virtual webinar, but would love engagement with you in the chat. So thanks, folks that have already contributed there. You're welcome. That function is on, as well as the question and answer. If something we discuss as we go through spurs something that you want to ask or that you want to emphasize in the chat, please engage with us in that way. We have also tried to build moments throughout our time together where we can engage in the chat with you and hear from you as well. So let's dive in.
All right. So what will we be talking about today? Our hope is that you will understand the importance of creating an inclusive and supportive atmosphere for housing staff at your institutions. Learn ITD's role in serving the entire housing department at Illinois through high impact culture changing efforts and initiatives. Explore ways to contribute to appreciation, engagement, and recognition efforts and initiatives for your staff. And lastly, to commit to one actionable step to improve staff experience and belonging. Part of today will, of course, be us explaining who we are, what we do, and why we do it. We will also share some ways we make time and space for others that will set you up to continue investing in your teams. We understand that we are in a time where there are various budget constraints and considerations, but you can still be intentional with how you pour into your teams. Even if you are not able to create a unit like we do have at Illinois, our ultimate hope is that you go away with ways you or your department can enhance the experience for your team.
Yeah. So we wanted to frame our time together in a first activity. And so a question I have up on the screen and would love for you to engage with us in the chat is describe, use what three words would others use to describe working with you? As we think about the work that we do around culture and our brand, right? What we want employees to experience working with us. I want to center us in this activity first. So if you could drop some of your thoughts in the chat. What three words would others use to describe working with you? Awesome. Thanks, pouring in. Caring, strengths-based, thoughtful, motivational, big picture, goal-oriented, positive, engaged, self-care, responsive, empathetic, realistic, fun, collaborative, empathetic. Excellent. And things still coming in there. So we asked this question again because we want folks to reflect on what is their brand. And you may have answered this personally for yourself. You are answering this on the behalf of thinking about your department. What three words would others describe working for you, meaning the department that you're a part of, but really to think about what is the fill in the blank experience, right? So considering what folks have shared, what do you hope folks say about working for you? Maybe there's alignment with what you've already shared, but share with us in the chat now. What do you hope folks say about working for you? Yeah, collaborative, student focused, innovative, energetic, collaborative, caring, intentional, understanding, positive. Excellent. When we've done this session, so we've presented this content a few times at a couple different conferences, and we've done an activity, a brand worksheet to really get people to think about how people experience you, right? And it could, again, be for you, the individual, or for you, the department. And I want you to think about, as you think about all the brands that we interact with, even in our personal lives, we often sometimes can have a reaction without even seeing a lot of information, right? Just a logo or a brand will trigger certain thoughts for us, positive or negative or neutral, maybe we don't know about. But I want you to think about that as we get into our content today is when people think about working for you, maybe the leader or you, the department, what do you hope folks' reaction is? And how might you work to think about how people experience you and what you hope they experience to get those things to align, right? Your intent and your impact having alignment. So thank you so much for those that engage in the chat in that way. All right. So the origin of inclusion and talent development in university housing, as David referenced, this is our team here. So David, our supervisor, director Kim Autry, our admin Ro, and then me. This is at one of our big events that we'll talk about a little bit later. We do a big summer event, and we'll talk about that towards the end of our time. So to give you a sense of scale, university housing at Illinois is a large and complex operation. We serve about 10,000 residents. We have 26 residence halls, 10 living learning communities, 10 dining locations, and 3 apartment communities. Our department includes around 700 non-student staff and between 1,000 to 1,500 student staff on a given year. University housing consists of 8 different units: administration, business services, dining services, housing facilities, family graduate housing, our unit, inclusion and talent development, housing, information and marketing, and residential life. We're situated in student affairs, specifically in auxiliaries, health, and well-being. So it's a little bit of context of who we are. I know some folks are in bifurcated systems or systems where maybe dining is separate from others, but all of those 8 units I reference are part of what we call university housing. So then who is ITD? So we're a unit, as I listed, in university housing, just like Res Life, housing facilities. And ITD started as a response to a desire to create more centralized training and development for all university housing staff. We had some specific interest in creating training for supervisors and managers across housing. We're seeing opportunities for how staff are being supported, especially around professional development and inclusion. There were great efforts essentially happening kind of across our department where there was opportunity was to elevate those centrally. Right? How can we centralize those efforts and create some consistency and experience? So we asked, what would it look like if we built something that supported the entire department? And that question really kind of became the foundation for ITD. Through our work, we've been able to increase confidence and capacity of our leaders. And we continue to build upon that culture of development. So we're excited to share with you a little more today. One thing I do want to note that's really important for us is in our work, we're very much staff facing. So as we look, a lot of our units are having kind of direct interface and direct impact on student experience. A lot of our work is very much staff facing. We do have a large body of work that is focused on our student staff, but a lot of our work happening with those 700 plus non-student staff members. But for us, everything we do in ITD is ultimately about student success. We approach it through the lens of staff experience, right? When staff feel supported, valued, and equipped, they just show up differently for our students. So whether it's a supervisor who has learned how to lead with empathy or a facilities team member who feels more recognized and included, those moments we have seen have had a positive ripple on students' experience and their success at our university. So one key thing that I want to say is supporting staff isn't separate from student success. We really believe that it's foundational to it. So, all right. So what's in ITD's portfolios? So these are ITD's buckets, as we refer to them. So organizational development, career development, trainings and workshops, and staff appreciation, recognition, and engagement. So we're going to go through each of these buckets and give you some examples of the things that we do within each of them. But essentially, we create culture of what it's like to work in university housing. And it's important to note that culture is shaped by each of these initiatives and all of the interactions that we have with folks. So as we've kind of compiled this portfolio of things that we do, really see how these things kind of complement one another and provide that holistic picture of what we hope folks experience working for university housing at Illinois.
All right, so our first bucket, organizational development, is about improving systems and communication, as well as leadership. We support teams in strategic planning, team building, and navigating change. It's really about making the workplace better for everyone. The first item that's in that bucket is our Culture and Climate Action Plan. ITD's initiatives all connect back to this plan. This plan is the result of a great deal of hard work and collaboration by individuals and committees. In 2020, the University Housing Inclusion Committee was actually tasked with assessing the department's commitment to and implementation of inclusive and equitable policies, practices, and facilities. This assessment began with a review of the diversity and inclusion programs and initiatives in place at that time for students and staff. The committee was also asked to ask staff what efforts were working and if there were populations that were not being served by those efforts. In the survey, hundreds of housing staff shared their sentiments around a variety of these elements, and what it meant to work in university housing, forming these commitments that are on your screen. The University Housing Inclusion Committee was tasked with developing an accountability plan to ensure that the action plan goals and objectives of each university housing unit are met. The link to the Culture and Climate Action Plan is on your screen underneath the QR code that you can also scan with your mobile device. Um, I wanted to add that sometimes the student success we measure so intensively at institutions doesn't reflect all of the wins that matter. In fact, here at Illinois, we've seen an increase in staff belonging. Our 2024 to 2025 annual report highlighted that the number of full-time staff who strongly agreed they feel like they belong at university housing increased from 11% in 2021 to 40% in 2024 to 2025. And working in housing, specifically, that's the kind of win that we want to see. And so this work is essential for the future of university housing. This was actually said by our Assistant Vice Chancellor for Auxiliary Health and Wellbeing and actually the Executive Director of University Housing. And so I pulled this quote directly from their welcome message that's in the Culture Climate Action Plan. I wanted to highlight this as we set the stage for talking about the work that we do in inclusion and talent development. These initiatives are not just nice to do, they're necessary to do. They're a part of our work and not in addition to it. And it's critical and essential, just like any other element of our operation here in housing. So ITD requests for services and ITD consults, these are both other items that we have in our organizational development bucket. So we offer ITD requests for services, a flexible menu where individuals and teams in housing can request our services. Based on their level of need, they can decide whether they want to lead a team builder themselves, co-facilitate with one of us, or have us take the full lead. And so the same goes for trainings. We know every unit is different, and we're well aware of that. So we've designed these options to be scalable and supportive depending on the need. And if they're ever sure which format is best for their ask, or if they just want to talk through kind of some situations and see what can be bred from that, we're always happy to help them brainstorm. Some examples of some services we provided are a training for dining called You Are More Than Your Title. Actually really enjoyed that one. We gave it 2 Novembers ago in their fall welcome back training. It's just again mentioning just like how we say to students, like for example, you're more than your ID number. This was actually saying I grabbed from Dave, like you are more than your title. And so trying to get them to understand that underneath our titles, we're human. We all have lives at home that we need to make sure to take care of. And so that's one of the trainings that we did. Other ones are leadership and management. Are you ready to lead? That was given at a facilities conference that was hosted here called ACUBS, or the Association of College and University Building Service Supervisors. Also within that conference, employee engagement and well-being, altering your lens as supervisors. Um, a fun team builder I did with our inclusion and leadership mentors here in housing, who are actually our student staff, is finding our why and our how. And I took that message from Simon Sinek. And so uh, we need to really center ourselves and the work that we do in our why before we even get to the how. And so, why are we doing it is essential. And so, helping our student staff understand that too is really important for the work that we do. And so, the list is long, but that's all I'll mention there. In addition to trainings and team builders, we also offer ITD consults. These are opportunities for unit leadership to partner with us on strategic initiatives focused on improving team dynamics, enhancing leadership development, or addressing specific challenges. Ooh, sorry. There we go.
Great. Just also want to pause to any questions so far. We're monitoring the chat and the question and answer, but curious as we move into our next bucket, just to take a quick pause. Is there any questions folks have? All right. I'll keep going. And if I see something, we can pause and go back to, or we'll make sure we address it at the end. So our next bucket, career development. I'm really excited to chat with you about this area of our work. Career development really is about helping staff see a future in housing. So we do coaching, resume support, and other growth opportunities for all of our staff across University Housing. And so I want to talk to you about the ways that we invest in career development and really seeing that as a meaningful retention and succession planning strategy for our department. So, okay. So professional coaching. So our coaching services are personalized. Whether someone's exploring a new role or dealing with a workplace conflict, we're here to support them. These sessions empower staff really just take ownership of their own growth. We have a coaching agreement with our team. So the staff agreement or the client agreement really is that coaching is not a substitute for professional mental health or counseling or medical care. That all comments and ideas that are offered by your coach are really just intended to assist you in defining and achieving your goals. You understand that your coach is not promising you career specific outcomes from working together. And essentially, you agree to attend and show up for your sessions. Confidentiality is also a promise to our folks, except for the things that we're still mandated reporters on. So that is something that has been an important part of our coaching agreement, and where we have really seen staff have great buy-in around our coaching program is that they do feel like it's a place that they can come and share. But just in the same way we do in many other aspects of our operation, we interrupt to inform and make sure that staff understand we are mandated reporters on those critical items that exist on many campuses. So as far as the success of this program, and you can see some of the things we've listed here, I would just say of the 700 plus staff that we have, we in ITD, we have existed, as we said on the earlier slide, since around 2020. And in that time, we have done coaching with over 250 of our staff, non-student staff, across our department. So we just think about the scope of impact and the number of people we've been able to sit down with one-on-one and work with through a variety of things has been a really meaningful experience. I think something that really sticks out to me is the number of folks that I've sat with or we have sat with that have said, I'm just right? I'm just a building service worker, or I'm just a dining worker. And really helping them to see the value that they bring, the things that they're actually doing in their job that have transferable skills, help them to see a future and where career progression can happen. That has been really meaningful, but it's also been really meaningful for us as a unit to see the buy-in across all levels, identities, and titles within our department. So we have coached, as I said, folks for BSWs, dining workers, residence hall directors, mid-level managers, and even folks across our executive team on a variety of different things, workplace challenges, resume help, prepping them for an interview, and the list goes on of things that we have done there. And like we've said, that has been very meaningful outcome. We're actually now tracking some data of folks that have taken promotional opportunities or advanced their career in university housing and auditing that against the number of or the folks that we have coached, so that we are tracking, is that somebody we did coaching with on that specific opportunity that they went for, to start to show kind of a return of investment for us around that. So that said, supporting our staff doesn't only happen in formal coaching sessions. So, maybe it's not realistic for you to have a coaching program in the way that it exists here. I do think that there's meaningful ideas around coaching. So, if you look up just coaching philosophy and how might that impact the way managers and supervisors in your department see their relationship with the team. I think that can create meaningful ways for supporting staff. And then I think just in general, we offered some tips here Creating space, modeling vulnerability, encouraging reflection, celebrating effort, not just outcomes. I think that there's a lot of times we do housing by the numbers, and we look at you know everything from our sign up numbers to how many folks stayed throughout the year to the number of meals that we serve, the number of work orders we completed, et cetera. But really making sure that we're celebrating effort and not just outcomes. Using our everyday moments to have interactions with team, and really making sure that we're inviting input. That's particularly been important for us as a large unit to make sure, or a large department, making sure that we're inviting input from our team. They feel that there's transparency, communication, and just opportunity to connect in those everyday moments. The baseline for me here is that it's really important to step away from operational elements to really see and focus on some of those holistic growth moments. If we're always just thinking about the next meal that we have to serve or the next operational thing, we're not backing up to really focus on these holistic growth moments with staff. I think there's some missed opportunity to really pour in to folks beyond their title or beyond their just daily task list. So great. Next step program. So next step prepares staff for supervisory roles and the University of Illinois application process. So it includes a two-part training, a coaching session, and folks leave with a certificate. So next step was developed out of a charge of one of our committees to think about succession planning, think about opportunities for staff, particularly for marginalized staff, and making sure that there was mentoring and teaching occurring in those spaces, really focusing on our staff that are in roles where temporary upgrades are available to them. So we have a lot of roles, or many roles in our department, where if my supervisor is out, I could be temporarily upgraded into that position for a short-term basis. And so this program then kind of helps people to be ready, that they could maybe look at an upgrade opportunity, because we then see folks that have been upgraded into an elevated role. Then when that role comes along for a permanent placement or for somebody to apply for, having had the experience of temporarily upgrading into really just gives people some additional experience and context. So the two sessions, the first one is around understanding how to apply for jobs at the University of Illinois. As things have changed, with our civil service role specifically, there used to be far more around testing, and now it's more based on resume review. And so we help folks understand the changes around that and how to prepare and apply for jobs. Session two then is around leadership and supervision in general, but then also what does it mean to temporarily step into a supervisory role and then step back into my role? How do I navigate that with relationships with people that were my peers that I'm now supervising, and then stepping back to be their peer. Then after that, they do a coaching session with our office to follow up on questions that they have and talking about next steps for them. So making sure that they are then preparing their resume and then having conversations with their supervisors about wanting to be considered for upgrade opportunities. So this has been a great program for us. We're, I think, year two-ish in implementation and continue to have great turnout. So folks have to apply to be a part of the experience. There's some pretty minimal criteria. They have to have worked with us for a given period of time and be in good standing to be considered to be a part of the program. And so yeah, it's off to a great start.
Okay, our next bucket, trainings and workshops. We offer a range of training sessions and workshops designed specifically to build skills, foster inclusion, and support professional development within our housing department. The first item in that bucket is the annual equity and inclusion training. It's a required training about topics that vary each year, and they're all related to housing efforts. In 2021, when the program started, the first topic was anti-racism. In 2022, it was gender inclusion. 2023, disability inclusion. 24, building bridges, connecting with the Illinois international community. And 2025, our most recent one, Gentelligence, navigating generational differences in the workplace. And I wanted to note that this is our only required training. So all these other things that you'll see throughout these buckets are all optional and register to attend. So really, since 2020, since our director and our executive director have been having the discussion about what this unit will be, we've all been building buy-in with our staff. And so I just wanted to note that as we move through all of these different items. Next up is the Take Two program. Dave, do you have something to add?
No, I was just going to offer, in addition to the bulk of the work being opt-in, that we do on almost all of our initiatives. There's only a couple of off-site efforts that we do that we can talk about later. That these are approved work events and no benefit time is needed. We do ask that folks still get supervisory approval because, as you could imagine, we don't want folks just walking off the job site,
Hmm.
building service workers leaving the run or dining staff just leaving their workstation to attend. So we do want folks to check with supervisors, but these are, no benefit time is needed. We want folks to be there. And we have had great buy-in and attendance doing that way. I think it also creates an atmosphere where the folks that are in the spaces that we're curating want to be there. They're not required to be there. Though I do want to say with annual E&I, David, if you go back just a second to that,
Yes.
I think there is sometimes when we talk about specifically equity and inclusion trainings, we're like, well, we talk about this, maybe we're leaving out that. And one of the things that I think is really important that is highlighted on the screen is that we might only focus on one topic a year, but then you can see over the course of a 5-year period how many topics we've covered with our team, giving them a good in-depth training on a variety of topics. And so the fact that this is done in an expected or mandatory training across our department then creates kind of a base level. Everyone that works for us has gone through this training, right? Everyone that has worked through us now has gone through this training. So I just wanted to highlight that as well, that sometimes I think we get stuck or we can get stuck about like, well, if we're focusing on this initiative or this effort or this topic, then we're forgetting about these others. And I think that one of the things we found really important is you just sometimes have to pick a thing and move forward, right? So in conversation with shareholders, determining what feels priority for the year and important for our team. But then again, as you move through all of these years, you can see all of the things we've been able to bring and create base level knowledge for our entire staff around. So thanks, David.
Of course. We also developed a certificate program we call Take Two. The program consists of two-hour sessions on a variety of different topics. The first take session is more lecture style. We dive into a specific topic a little bit deeper than surface level. And the second take is more workshop. And so staff are walk through different activities that incorporate real world application to ensure that they can connect what they're learning in the program to their job. As a register to attend program with limited seats, we create an intentional learning environment. And so I did want to add that this program started out in um, fall of 24, so September, no, yes, yes. September 2023. September 2023. And so we've had a variety of topics. Our first one in September was civility in the workplace, and that was followed by What If I Say the Wrong Thing, based on a book by Vernee Myers, 25 Habits for Culturally Effective People, I believe is the title of that. Unmasking Bias, we brought a Dr. Fisher, Empathy and Storytelling. And then coming soon, we'll host some on LGBTQ plus ally training and also neurodiversity. And so a couple of these Take Two topics have actually resulted from the creation of some new affinity groups that we will talk to a little bit later in this presentation. And so I think one thing that's really cool to note is that if they attend both sessions in their entirety, they not only get a certificate of completion that will actually print out, but they'll also get a badge that they can link to their LinkedIn profile, and that's all done through a service called Accredible, ACC Accredible. And so, really, in this workshop, I have specifically gotten to know all the people that I've seen at other ITD events but also I've gotten to see some new faces. I've gotten to see people who were shoulder tapped and were told like, "Hey, I attended this last year." Like for example, Civility in the Workplace, we just hosted again this September. It was a returning event, and then also Unmasking Bias in February will be a returning event as well. People have been like, "Hey, you need to get in that space. You need to hear what they're talking about." And so really just again building that buy-in with our staff in the beginning of our early stages in ITD, we were kind of like sending out a lot of reminders and invitations, trying to get people in the space just to hear what we're trying to do here in housing, in ITD. And now we're seeing a lot more people who bring friends, a lot more people who bring folks to just hear what we're trying to do and how we can help them.
David, do you want to go ahead and talk about what it used to be at its first iteration?
Yeah, so Take Two was actually a redesigned program. Before it was called Dig Deep, Dialogue, Inclusion, Growth, was that abbreviation. And that one, it honestly was not that different. It would only be one session, 30 to 60 minutes, depending on the topic. And we would just be in a room. I'd have some talking points, some discussion questions, and in 1 year, we had one person show up, like in total to just one of the sessions. We just had one person. And so I think that it was a learning experience for myself, for ITD, for Dave, of just like how we frame things and how we advertise them is really important. And how we make sure that we let folks know, like, hey, this is what we're going to talk about, but this is like that title that, like all glittery. It's like civility in the workplace. And this is what we're talking about. We're actually talking about respect in the workplace, how you can be a contributor to this workplace culture at your job. And so, yeah.
Yeah. The one thing I wanted to add, we had gotten some feedback actually specifically on the dig deep language, which was part of the shift for us, is that there were some commentary from folks that like, well, if I'm not regularly engaging in topics around equity and inclusion, the thought of digging deep created some increased kind of nerves for folks to be engaged in that space. And so while we saw lower turnout in that titling, just by doing a little bit of rebranding and how we packaged it, has then created spots where we've had to open up extra seats. So we still try to keep it at an intimate environment, 25 to 30 people, to make sure that we're able to get into the content. And honestly, we're getting deeper into content than we were in its previous iteration when it was called Dig Deep. So really doing two sessions and lecture format and then digging in on a workshop, we're getting people more into what the content is. So I wanted to also highlight on the slide here the bolded ones, civility in the workplace and unmasking bias. I think you said this, David. I don't
Hmm.
remember. Are ones that we're repeating because those ones just felt there was really positive feedback and felt foundational. And so we're bringing those back. I know David mentioned Dr. Anise Fisher. We actually met her at a QOI when she was at the Milwaukee conference. And that was where the kind of connection first occurred. Learned that she was doing some work with the AQOI leadership and continued to connect with her and was able to bring her to campus. So she's also a University of Illinois alumni. So that was a cool opportunity to bring her, and we're continuing to bring her back for professional development with our team. So
Hmm.
thanks, David. All right, Manager Series. So, Manager Series is a series that is intended to support those who supervise non-student staff. Uh, these are embedded sessions based on feedback that we get from our evaluations, from conversations with our executive team, and then curated throughout the month of October is typically when we have been doing it. This year, we have leading and influencing teams, which just wrapped up yesterday. We're doing a session with a colleague that was active in the UMR and Glucujo region on why belonging centered spaces matter, imposter syndrome, later this month, and then doing a session around elevating your facilitation skills. So we actually have a staff member that works for University Housing right now that is a member of Toastmasters organization that really, if you know Toastmasters, it's a body of work around helping people elevate their presentation and facilitation skills. And so that's how we're going to wrap up our month. folks, after they attend the series, whether they attend one session or all that we offer throughout the month, will get a certificate of participation noting how many hours or how many sessions that they participated in. So this has been a great opportunity for us to connect with and specifically focus on our supervisors and managers and really work on that upskilling. How are we helping folks work on those skills that are maybe outside, again, of their operational task that they're doing, but helping them be better leaders for our staff, be more identity aware, to be, increase their polish, and help confidence build and capacity build with our managers, mid-level managers across university housing. Wellness Week. So Wellness Week focuses on holistic well-being. These sessions are really intended to help staff recharge and reconnect. It's one way that we show that we care about the whole person. So I think what's really important to highlight about Wellness Week for us is these sessions are really designed to help the person, not the person upskill in the title or the role that they serve for us. So the photo that's on screen here is actually from an event we do the Thursday of Wellness Week called Wellness Week Wind Down, where we have a massage in one room with a local vendor in town that comes in and does chair massage. And then in the neighboring room, we did pot your own plant so that folks could put that in their office or take that home with them to bring a little bit of life to their space. So we've done a variety of different events throughout that week. Some of my favorites, we've had our executive chef and senior assistant director has done a cooking class with staff. So that's a low cost way to use somebody that's on the team that has a tremendous amount of knowledge to teach somebody how to make a weeknight 30-minute meal that's budget friendly. And so everybody comes and we do a demo cook of how to prepare the meal, and then they leave with a recipe card of how to do that. And then we've done a variety of different sessions of everything from mental wellness, emotional wellness, some other things we're working on for the future around financial wellness, and really thinking about broadening the topics based on feedback that we've gotten from the team. So we also have collaborated with our faculty staff assistants. So if you have a program like that on your campus, we've brought in folks from faculty staff to present with our team. So that's been another way that has been low cost and allows us to collaborate and highlight resources that are available to employees. I would imagine on other campuses like here, there are still staff that don't understand that they have access to resources like faculty staff assistants. So that has been an important partnership and collaboration specifically around this initiative for us. So.
All right, so staff appreciation, engagement, and recognition. This is our last bucket we'll discuss today. Appreciation, engagement, recognition are all central to our work. We host a variety of events and create opportunities for staff to feel seen and valued. These specific efforts focus less on the professional development and more on building morale and community. Okay, and so our staff engagement events. It jumped a little bit. Our staff engagement events. We host a couple different ones throughout the year. In the fall, coming up later this month, we'll host Fall Fun at Curtis Orchard and Pumpkin Patch. And this is actually the second time we're doing this. Last year was so much fun for the staff that were able to make it. And this is actually off campus. And so is Jump into Spring at Elevate Trampoline Park. They're both off campus events. And so also, housing happy hours, they're hosted monthly. These all have a different activity, a different food and beverage theme, and that we host each month on the last Friday of every month, all with non-alcoholic beverages, of course. And so these are just a few examples. I did want to mention that all of these are cost-free, and they're intentionally designed to be inclusive of staff and their families. These efforts have been deeply appreciated. Some staff have shared that they'd never taken their families to places like Curtis Orchard or Elevate before, simply because it wasn't financially accessible to them. Others have said that they hadn't explored family-friendly places off campus until these events. And so these aren't just fun outings. We want to make sure that you understand that they're intentionally strategic. They help staff to decompress, to connect across the different units in housing, and build relationships with colleagues that they might not otherwise meet. It's about creating these moments of belonging, not just for the staff, but also for the people that they care about. And so these different events, specifically for housing happy hour, like they're fun, right? Just like I said, they're strategic, but they're also fun. We just did a homecoming barbecue. All of our staff came out. We had some good food. We had some good outdoor games, karaoke and mac and cheese, trivia and pizza are also some ideas for events. And I did want to mention that a lot of these events are supported by our housing catering and residential dining teams under the dining unit within housing. And so that's another way that we've been able to leverage our resources and ensure that we still provide these upscaled events for staff.
Yeah. Other things I wanted to add, I had referenced this earlier, but Fall Fun at Curtis and Jump into Spring, those are two events that are not events that are approved to attend on the clock.
Mhm.
So those are events are free, but we don't want folks to leave the work site and drive off campus. So we don't provide transportation. Those are not approved work events, and we're very clear in the advertising for those events that while they are cost free to our employees and their families, those are not ones that folks are to attend while on the clock. Housing happy hours, those happen just at the tail end of the workday, as David was referencing. Those ones are not necessarily open for families, but we did on this last one for homecoming, we did open that one to families because immediately following the happy hour was the parade on campus. So we thought that would be a great way if folks wanted to bring their families. We can do a tailgate, and then folks can go and watch the parade route before
Mhm.
they would head home for the evening. So
So sorry. Um, this is our annual staff appreciation event. And also we will talk about Make a Difference Award. And so the annual staff appreciation event, it's hosted in June of each year. And so there we have food trucks. We also have a ticket system for the food trucks. And I did want to note that a lot of these businesses that I'll mention, like the food trucks, we also had a caricature artist, we had a photo booth vendor, a lot of these are minority-owned businesses that we reached out to and sourced locally. And so there's a bunch of different activities. And I did want to mention that attendance at our annual staff appreciation event has increased from 150 in 2023 to 515 people in 2024, and now to 723 people. And that includes staff and also the guests that they brought in 2025. And so growth like this just doesn't just happen. It's fostered through relationship building and other efforts to build a positive culture that we strive to create here in housing. And the Make a Difference Award annually is given to four staff, and we just wanted to make sure that recognition matters and that our staff understand that we understand that recognition matters. Our Make a Difference Award and annual appreciation event spotlight the incredible work happening across housing. Make a Difference Award. Like as I said, annually four staff are selected, and they receive a $250 award, a commemorative plaque, and also a free dinner with the guests served by a housing leadership team. And so, housing leadership team cook the food, wait the tables, they do all of that stuff just to make sure that our staff understand that we care about them, and that we see what they're accomplishing throughout the day to day.
we also make sure with that specific award that we're focusing on our frontline staff and others in the department. So assistant directors and up are not eligible for the Make a Difference Award, as there's lots of opportunities to recognize staff. But we really want to make sure that the focus of this is on our frontline staff and our and other staff across university housing. So. The fun part about this, in addition to the monetary award and the plaque that they get, did you say this, David, about the
Yeah.
meal? Okay. So all the assistant or the executive directors are making the meal, serving the meal, and so it's a very special night for our team. So
Mhm.
okay, University Housing Affinity Group, so another meaningful space that we create for our underrepresented employees, for folks to build capacity around their shared experiences. We started out with two. We had women of color and Spectrum for our LGBTQIA plus staff, in addition to a student staff affinity group that we host. This year, we have onboarded three additional, so interfaith in housing, neurodiverse in housing, and young professionals in housing. So these folks meet twice a semester. They're open to all employees, but really intended to create belonging, amplify voices. And these are staff led, but supported by ITD. So folks that help us lead these are from across University Housing, non-student staff members from across our department that in collaboration with us as a unit host these spaces. So we provide funding and the equipment and materials necessary to host these meetings throughout the year. All right. So I want to move us into a really quick activity. I see as we approach our time, you'll need a thank you note, a sticky note, or an email, or even a Teams message. But I want you to think as we kind of wrap up this body of work around staff appreciation, who's somebody on the team that could use a little bit of recognition? And I'd like if you could send them an email really quick or a Teams message or write a quick post-it note. So give folks just a moment to do that. And you're welcome to, don't share the name, but share the message that you gave to that person. Throw it in the chat. What are some things that you just showed some love for, showed some recognition around? Yeah, I just want to say how much I enjoy working with you. It's an important note. Sometimes folks need to hear. Excellent. Thank you for sharing. Here's the point. The point is that recognition really doesn't need a budget. So just thinking about the impact you made just in a few moments. It doesn't need a lot of time either. It just needs intention. So even a simple message like the one that was shared can really help make somebody feel seen. You know, I talk a lot with our team about we spend a lot of our waking hours at work. And so let's try to be folks that we want to work around and be kind to one another and show appreciation. I think it's important to note too that when there's accountability that needs to occur, we often have well-defined processes and timelines and expectations around that. We don't oftentimes have the same level of expectation, timelines, et cetera, for recognition. And so if I was to give you a task, I would encourage you to open up your calendar and think about when is 15 or 30 minutes that you could throw on your calendar every week to block off some time for staff recognition and appreciation. Maybe it's just looking back through your Teams messages from the last week and say, who could I throw a quick Teams message to just to say that I see you and I appreciate you? Or submitting for one of the many awards that I know our associations are soliciting nominations for. But how could you carve out intentional time to make recognition a priority? And then to wrap us up in the chat, just what's one thing that you can take back to your campus? We're curious. Yeah, it doesn't always take money to get things done. having socials being more open to families. We love that. That has been something really special for us too. I think that one of the things we try to remind ourselves is that it really is culture work for people to feel comfortable that they can bring the people they love the most in this world to back to work, to an event at work, or be around coworkers after they worked all day. Some creative options, excellent. Thinking more about in-house recognition, I love that. That's great. David, let's go ahead and move to question time. Can we hand it back to our host too? But want to make sure we have just a couple of moments for any questions that folks might have. Yeah, more things in the chat here, more personable, directed, and intentional. I really like the idea of choosing a topic and acknowledging that that doesn't limit us, but that doing something is better than doing nothing. Yeah, it's great. Yeah, we've learned some things through our time. Sometimes you got to launch at 60%, and sometimes you just got to do something, you know. We get kind of stuck sometimes, or can get stuck in planning stages. It's important for us to move forward. Well, if there's no questions, I just want to say thank you for joining us. There's a lot happening right now on our campuses and in the world. We just hope that you leave with some ideas and a sense of hope. We encourage you to look for the agency that you have to center staff belonging and positively impacting the staff that you serve. And David shared our contact information. You also can find us on our housing website and get a hold of us there. We'd be happy to connect and help you think about how might you be able to mobilize an effort in your department. So thanks again.